Hello and welcome to this webinar presented by MSP Voice. Today we're going to be talking about Myki for MSPs. Again, MSP Voice sponsored by Cloudberry Lab, cloudberrylab.com. All things MSP Voice is on mspvoice.com, so be sure to check that out for the recording of this webinar, which will be up next week. And also for anything in regards to the podcast and other upcoming webinars, be sure to check out MSP Voice. And of course, check out our sponsor, cloudberrylab.com. So with that, let's go ahead and get started on our webinar. Today we have Richard, Daly, as well as Karim, who are going to talk about Myki for MSPs. It's a really cool password management platform, I guess you would say, for lack of better terms. So Richard, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more?
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, absolutely. So Myki for MSPs, as it says, it's built from the ground up for MSPs. We're approximately 5 years old. We're about 650,000 users globally at the moment, managing approximately 2 million endpoints. But in 2018, we actually noticed that there was a significant opportunity for Myki in the MSP space. So the product that we're going to talk about today and the platform that Karim is going to live demo shortly, is built for MSPs from the ground up. So hopefully with that, let me just share a bit more information about us and I suppose the current state of the market, where it is today, what we're hearing from MSPs on a daily basis, and then how Myki is filling that need for MSPs today. So here's the current state of the land that we live in right now. Password 12345. Hackers are evolving faster than IT. That's just the space that we sit in. Yeah, passwords.
You put my password up there on the screen.
I know, yeah, and
I'm not going to tell you which one it is.
here's the funnier fact, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a recent UK government, it's like a 2-year research where the National Cybersecurity Centre in the UK released some stats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is used in 47% of employees globally, but in Europe they've seen it hacked 23 million times in the last 3 years. But yet it's still one of the most used passwords across personal use as well as business use. But and I suppose one of the reasons for Myki for MSPs and password management is that this is actually completely preventable, and I think it's the opportunity, and that's the opportunity for MSPs today, in that employees have been managing passwords for quite a time now, but yet it's completely preventable. And the fact that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're still the most used passwords and haven't been changed in nearly 5 years. It's just it's incredible that that it hasn't evolved. So I think that's the opportunity. Most MSPs, when you speak to them and you ask them, what do you do? A lot of MSPs will say, oh, we're the IT department of our end users. They depend on us for everything. Yet, very few MSPs manage passwords today for their clients. So actually having that discussion with clients is actually it's a powerful opportunity to sit and talk to them and say, look, there's a way of doing this longer, stronger, not only on the passwords, but even things like 2FA. The fact that 2FA is not used by a lot of folks today is just incredible. It's a really strong and super opportunity to add an additional layer of security to any of your accounts. So again, MSPs perfectly placed to help their clients enable 2FA across organizations today. And then a big problem, employees, again, it goes back to that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Employees, on average, they reckon most individuals, Doug, and you're probably the same as me, I've got access to nearly 70 plus applications between my mobile phone, my laptop, my iPad, my work device, as well as personal. So trying to manage passwords for all of those, it's near impossible. So by default, most humans will implement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because I can remember that across every application that I use on a daily basis. So again, that threat vector is very easy for hackers. They get more sophisticated, dark web scanning, everything that goes on today. So the fact that it's easy to hack, we need to change that. We need to change that landscape, and I think that's where
I 100% agree with you there. And like you mentioned, why do people do these easy passwords? It's because they can remember it, right? And they probably have to remember, you know, 30 or 40 different passwords for different applications or different sites, and they forget what it was. And so they use the same password for everything, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or not, it's still, if that one password gets out, then guess what? The hacker can get into multiple systems to have access to. So password
Not even that.
management is really a pain.
But you speak to most MSPs and they tell you the amount of sites where folks are still using Excel, employees sharing their password willingly with others. It's just on the rise. Most employees reuse their passwords across personal and business. I mean, just the fact that that's going on, and again, it just comes down to that threat vector. It's unauthorized use of passwords is one of the most common methods today for entry into most, especially SME organizations, where a lot of the MSPs that we talk to would sit at the moment. So just having that conversation with clients, it's a fantastic opportunity for MSPs, help them to make their passwords longer, stronger, and enable 2FA. It's now is the time to do that. So with that, because I know, as I said earlier, me being Irish, if you give me an opportunity to talk, we'll talk for for a long time. But let me bring Karim in, and he's going to walk through a live system, a live demo. Again, Doug, if you see something you want to ask the questions with, please do.
Sure.
And then we'll wrap up at the end of the live demo. So Karim, over to you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Doug, hi. You can say hi officially.
Yeah. Hello.
So I'm happy to walk you through the product, so Myki for MSPs and everything that comes with it. But first, I'd like to talk about something that makes Myki different from the rest of the competition. And that has to do with the way we handle data. So the main difference with Myki and the likes of LastPass, 1Password, Passport, etc., is that we don't store data in the cloud. So there are two main branches of password managers out there. There are the cloud-based ones, those that store data in the cloud, of course, and the offline ones, those that don't, that only that only store data locally on a smartphone or computer. Now, the advantages of having cloud-based password manager is that you can have your passwords anywhere. It's really convenient. From an offline point of view, it's really annoying to sync your passwords across two phones, for example. Usually it's impossible, or they ask you to sync it through, Dropbox or G Drive or anything like that, which is really not recommended. So we liked some things about the two systems, so we decided to make something kind of in between. So Myki is sort of a hybrid solution where we only store data across the devices that you use, but through our relay server, we use that to sync that information across those devices. So nothing gets stored on our servers, and yet we still found an online way to sync that information across. There was lots of challenges, of course, in making it behave like a cloud-based password manager, so that most people won't even notice what's going on in the background, and they shouldn't even worry about that. But for us, it was the whole idea of how to make an actually private and secure password manager. Where do we put things?
Got you. So Karim, so if I understood that, you actually store the password securely on a device like a phone, but also on, like, say, a laptop as well.
Yeah. So let's say you're using Myki, you have your phone, and you have Myki installed on both your phone and your laptop. So these two devices will communicate with each other. Now, instead of fetching your data from our server, device A will talk to device B and let it know that, oh, hey, device A, I have an account that you don't have, so here you go. So the devices will communicate with each other. They will compare their databases and make sure that they're all in sync. And that happens, on a personal basis if you have, like 2-3 devices, and that the same mechanism happens across a whole company. It could be 1,000, 2,000, or even maybe 50 or 10. It works the same way.
Okay.
Now, that being said, let's actually talk about the product and the features. The rest, becomes boring. So I'm showing you the admin dashboard for Myki for MSPs, and that is included in our desktop app. So I'm just going to walk you through that. You have multiple profiles. You're set up with a personal profile where you can store your personal passwords, of course, that looks a bit like this. And of course, you can switch to an enterprise profile. In my case, I have Myki, which is my actual Myki profile, in which Myki will assign to me passwords that I need. And of course, I have demo for the sake of the demo, and some client setup. Same thing for the demo. So I'm just showing you the desktop app, how it looks like everyday use. You have your list of passwords, payment cards, and secure notes. add to FAs, which we'll get to in a minute. And that's your dashboard directly from the app, so no need for like browser or anything.
Okay, Karim, your audio is cutting out a bit here and there. So.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just I love it. Might be like a VoIP type issue where it cuts out occasionally, but we should be okay.
All right. Let me know if I'll repeat whatever you guys missed. No problem.
Okay.
So here we are in the admin dashboard for Myki for MSPs, and it is designed to be two things. So it is designed to be used internally, so as a password manager for the MSP itself, as well as one that you can resell to your clients and get them on board from the same dashboard. So we have a section called Manage Companies, which is the client-facing section of Myki for MSPs. But first, I'd like to talk to you about the MSP-specific features. So everything labeled MSP over here on the left is intended for internal MSP use. And first off, we got the MSP users section, in which you'll see the list of users that work with you in the MSP. You can, of course, invite them by typing in their work email, or we have a whole import process where you can import them from, a bunch of other integrations like Google for Work, Microsoft Azure AD, ConnectWise, IT Glue, Kaseya, and more to come, of course. So once you've invited your users, they receive an email with 2 steps. The first one is to download Myki on whatever device they choose. And the second one is a simple button to join the enterprise account. Now, from this section, you can know more about each person that's part of your enterprise. So if I click on myself over here, Myki will show me the list of passwords that I have access to. And you can go over to the items access section. This is where you'll decide which passwords you want to share with a person, and it's just a matter of and then hitting save, and then they'll appear on their devices. The important thing about that, about sharing passwords with Myki, is that by default we will hide the passwords from users. So when a user logs in, we will autofill the username and password in the browser, and we will hide the fields so they won't be able to read anything. And the passwords will be hidden from their devices, so they can only have that information autofilled with Myki. So that makes that could be a very useful tool for MSPs and other companies where they don't necessarily have to share the password. That makes it easy when somebody leaves a certain company. Usually it takes a while. You have to make a list of all the passwords that person had access to and rotate them. Well, if that person never had access to the password, so that's it. You just delete them from the Myki account. All the information disappears from their devices, and that's it. That's the end of it. So now we're in the MSP vault section, basically where the MSP will be storing its sensitive information, and that includes passwords, payment cards, and SecureNote, of course. And those can be added manually by filling in the information, of course, or import. We have a bunch of import options from a bunch of other password managers, so it's pretty easy. And that includes, of course, payment cards, SecureNotes. You can import all of the 3 data types.
So we have two. I noticed real quick on the import.
Yeah.
That you allow import from other platforms. So if you're migrating from one platform to another, you allow, hey, just bring them all in from one of these password managers that's already there.
We encourage it.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, no,
otherwise
it's
it would
good
be
to know, because if I'm currently using one of these other platforms and I want to switch, then hey, guess what? There's an import option that I can bring in everything from IT Glue or LastPass or 1Password or whatever it is. Okay.
Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely. Next up, we got 2 organizational tools, groups and item folders. So groups are basically a collection of users, whereas item folders are a collection of items. And items are anything that are part of your vault. So that could be password, payment cards, SecureNote, or anything that will come in the future. So those 2 tools are here to help you mimic the structure of your company within the admin dashboard. It also helps you keep things organized and assign passwords in bulk. So let's say, for example, a marketing department. You have 10 people working in your company, 10 in the marketing department, and they all need access to about 20 passwords, and they use the same pretty often. So the way to do it on Myki is you create a group called marketing department and put in there, the people that work in that department, and then you can go over to the item folder section. Create a marketing folder and put in there, the passwords that they would need. And all you have to do at this point is assign this marketing folder to this marketing department group. And every single person that works in the marketing department will receive those passwords on their devices, and they'll be able, of course, to log in. Similarly, if somebody new joins the marketing department, all you have to do is add them to that group and they will receive all the passwords that are part of the folder that you've assigned to that group. And again, if somebody leaves, same thing, you just have to remove them from that group. So it's just a matter of keeping things organized and making it sustainable in the future so that you don't have to, always go back to the user section and click on each person. So far, so good?
Yeah, definitely. Now, but just real quick, the view that we're in, this would be the MSP company, right? So
Absolutely.
I own an MSP.
This is internal.
This is internal. This is, my MSP marketing group, not the marketing department for customer A.
Absolutely. This is all internal. It's for us.
Got it.
Yeah. So next one is my favorite part. It's what we call security policies. And they're here to help you control where, when, and how people will be allowed to log in. We have 3 of those. The first one is a location-based policy, where you can draw a perimeter on a map like so. And basically restrict access from that perimeter, outside of that perimeter, of course. So let's say you want people to only log in from within the office. You can draw a perimeter around the office and then assign this rule company-wide. And basically, you've just told Myki to not let anyone log in outside of that perimeter. It sounds pretty extreme, but there's a lot of use cases. Specifically, you can do things on a bigger scale. So you can say, I don't want anybody outside of the US to log in. So you can draw a whole perimeter around the US. We've seen other MSPs just create a security policy around their office or around the office of one of their clients. So it's really depending on your needs, but that's something you can control. The second policy we have is a time-based policy where you can simply pick the days of the week and the hours of the day during which people will be allowed to log in. So let's say work hours, for example. And the last one is an IP address policy where you type in a range of IP addresses, for example, company Wi-Fi, and people will only be able to log in from there. Now, those 3 policies, they work together. There's no conflict. You can stack them up. So if you have 3 offices, you can set 3 different location-based policies and basically make sure that no one can log in outside of any of those offices. So yeah, they all work together. No problem there.
Okay, are these global then?
Yes.
Okay, so when you create a policy, it applies to the entire organization.
Oh, that's the choice. You can actually, it's very modular that way. So if you create a policy, you can either apply it to the company, you can apply it to one person, you can even apply it to one password. Or I've seen some MSPs only apply it to the credit card, to the company credit cards, because they don't want anybody to use a credit card outside of the office. So yeah, absolutely. It's very modular that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
And now I'm guessing the least restrictive policy takes precedent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So now let's go over to the managed company section, which is the client-facing section, in which an MSP will see the list of the clients that they manage. In my case, I manage Lego and Apple, so I am literally the richest MSP on earth. And I have them on Myki for MSPs, so that's pretty good. So what you can do over here, you can add a new company, you can onboard a new client. You can either do that manually by filling in the information, or you can import them, of course, from other integrations, some integration that we have like ConnectWise, IT Glue, Kaseya. So that's also possible. Of course, there's more to come. So let's say I'm an MSP and I'm onboarding a client. All I would have to do is fill in the information, such as the name of that client, their website, the support email and phone number I'd like to redirect them to, as well as a number of licenses that I want to assign. And I can also decide whether or not I'd like to white label their portal so that they see the logo of the MSP over here instead of Myki's logo. So it's something that can happen. So once you fill in the information and once you hit save, what we'll do on the Myki side is that we will create a whole separate admin dashboard for each of the clients that you onboard. And since I'm an MSP admin, I will be set as an admin on those clients by default. And that means that I will see this little manage button over here on the right, and I can have access to my client's dashboard. So in my case, I'm going to go to client 1, click on manage, and that will redirect me to client 1's dashboard. And as you can notice, it is extremely similar to mine, except it doesn't have all the MSP tags on the left. And of course, it doesn't have the MSP specific features. Now, I'm in their user section, and their users will see me as an MSP admin. So there's no way the people will know who I am, and that's not something you can change. But as an MSP, at this point, I can start inviting the users of client 1. I can set up their vault, maybe create some groups and folders, security policies, etc. I can do it all. And once they're set up, there are multiple ways to manage a client. So depending on the relationship between the MSP and the client, they might keep an MSP admin in their account. or they might, completely remove themselves and set somebody else as an admin, somebody that's part of the client, and let them manage their password. So really depends on the involvement of the MSP in managing the passwords of the client. But the options are there. I'm going to go back to the MSP dashboard. Just clicking this button over here, MSP. And I'm going to talk about the reporting section. Do you have any questions before I move on?
So, but when you're in that, when you set up a company, like one of your companies that you manage, they have all the access to groups, item folders, all that type of stuff, like you would, like you showed us already.
Yes.
Okay.
They have access to their own. Yeah, they have their own groups, their own folders. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then if I add people from the company, they get a similar invite, I'm guessing, to join the company's Myki.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's an email that comes from Myki with a couple steps on how to get set up, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
And then the MSP can set one of their users as an admin, and that person, the admin, will have access to the dashboard. So,
okay.
Cool.
But then, like, as someone at the company, if I get this invite to Myki, obviously, because I'm going to have access to some of the company passwords. Do I also get a personal space as well for my sites?
Everybody gets a personal space. Every single person that has Myki set up on their phone, their computer, will have their own personal vault that is absolutely separate. It's separate in the core. It's different. It's a different database even. So they can leave the company later and go on to a new one that even uses Myki. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, great.
All right, so let's talk about the reporting section. I know that's Richard's favorite part, and we have the security dashboard in here. So the security dashboard is here to give you a general score of how secure you are. And that is, of course, based on the strength of your passwords. So in here, we'll let you know which of your passwords is strong, which weak, reused, old, and at risk. So strong and weak, pretty self-explanatory. A reused password is one that has been used on more than one account, and that is the most common mistake people make. So that's something I'm pretty sure most MSPs see on the security dashboard of their clients. And then you got old passwords, so it's a password that hasn't been changed in 6 months after being added to Myki. We've just recently added the ability for the MSP to decide what they consider to be an old password. And lastly, we have what we call at risk. And we'll let you know which of your passwords have been breached. We use Pond's API to detect whether or not your passwords have been part of a data breach online, and of course those need to be changed ASAP.
Okay, so
this is the
question.
Security that.
Yes, I'm a quick question here. So I'm assuming you're looking at password hashes and not the actual plain text password to determine this.
Absolutely, definitely. Okay. Password hashes, and there's only locally on my machine right now, so nothing goes to our service.
Okay.
So this is the security dashboard of the MSP itself, and every single client they have their own security dashboard. So as an MSP admin, I can always check the score of my clients and let them know, what needs to be changed, or maybe do that for them. Again,
Karim,
depending on the management.
This is actually resonating with a lot of MSPs because it talks to how they're going to become proactive with their clients and help them manage their passwords on an ongoing basis. So obviously, when Myki is installed first or a client is onboarded, within a couple of weeks, you're going to see this week reused at risk, probably on a more frequent basis. And part of that service offering or the proactiveness from the MSP is going to keep these scores as low as possible on a regular basis. So that's resonating with a lot of partners at the moment, to just back up what they're doing for the client on a regular basis. Because again, a lot of MSPs work remotely, so out of sight, out of mind, that kind of methodology. So having this and being able to walk the client through this and show them where they're helping them is important for MSPs.
Yeah, Richard, now that leads me to another question. So we talked about that they have a personal space, right? Will the MSP get a report on their customers' users' personal space?
No. The MSP, they'll see nothing about the personal space.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing there.
Again, but it also helps with that MSP side of it as well, and that not only are we going to help you at your business life, but we can show you by using Myki, because you can create your own personal store, how you can manage your personal life, so you move away from that reusing passwords in personal and business to actually making your passwords in business and personal longer and stronger. But the MSP doesn't have access to it. If, for example, an employee leaves a client site of an MSP, it's a checkbox item, uncheck it, and all of that business data disappears from that end device, but the personal stuff stays there. So that's important as well.
Great.
So to go back to the personal space, the thing is, the important part of that is the MSP has to make sure that an end user does not reuse a password between a personal account and a company account, because that's how you get a breach. That's the easiest way to get a breach. So I think that when an end user starts using a password manager, any password manager, even if it comes from an enterprise point of view, like if you work at a company and they need you to, they require you to use a password manager, I think it becomes a habit. It's kind of like hygiene. So you get used to using a password manager, to not creating a password and just having it created by the password manager and autofill it. So it's a question of a habit as well. So I believe that once they start using a password manager, they'll necessarily start using the same methods for their own personal passwords. So that's it's better than staying on their reused passwords, of course.
Okay. Now, just real quick back to the personal space. So I understand, as the MSP, I can't see into the personal space, but if I have my personal space, can I get this report from my personal space?
Yeah, absolutely. So on your app, so whether it's on your phone, your iPad, or computer, there's a security dashboard for yourself. Of course, every single person will have their own security dashboard. Yeah.
Got it. So I could make my folks say, hey, send me a screenshot of your security dashboard, so I know.
Yeah, and we're actually looking into sort of gamifying that experience. So since it's a score, we could maybe find a way to make that a bit more fun and have users maybe make their get their score higher, because of course higher is better.
Yep.
So if you go back to the dashboard, we have one more section that I'd show you split in two, but so that has to do with the audit logs. And those are really important. They're basically the forensics of a company. There's two sections for it, one for the MSP itself, of course, and one for their clients that they have on board. Those will show you any action taken by any admin on the dashboard. And you can, of course, change the time period and export this information to CSV, Excel, PDF, or even print that. And that's really, really important, because nothing that you do on the dashboard won't be logged over here. So if you have a company with like 4 or 5 admins, and somebody changed the password without notifying the rest of the admins, so you can always go back to the audit logs and check that. Everything is logged over here. Again, same thing happens for your clients. So you have a bunch of logs that that apply to your clients. You have a drop-down menu for the list of your clients. Click on client 1 and client B, and you can see what they've been up to, or if they ever need some clarification. And again, you can export this information and share that with your clients as well. What we're looking to do with this is create a monthly report that will be sent to the MSP by email, for example. Let them know, the general score of the clients, how many passwords were changed, how many passwords have expired and need to be changed, etc. So that would be a good way of keeping things in check. Now, that's pretty much all the major features of Myki for MSPs. But there is one thing I haven't showed you yet, and that's how an end user would log in using Myki. So I'm going to switch over to a browser. Here we are. And I'm going to use Twitter as an example. So through our browser extension that's available on all the major browsers, so Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Opera, Edge, and all the Chromium-based browsers, so Vivaldi, Brave, and anything that might come in the future, especially the new Edge that's Chromium-based, we will show a user the list of available accounts to them. So there's this little green owl that'll pop up in the username and password field, and in this case, I have 2 Twitter accounts for the sake of the demo, and those have been assigned to me by an admin, so it's company accounts. And I have one that has 2FA set up on it, because it's something we haven't talked about, but Myki is a fully fledged authenticator as well. So we can not only store and manage your username and passwords, but of course we can manage your 2FAs. They can sync across the company, they can be reused, and we also back them up for you. So I'm going to show you how that works for 2 types of accounts. One that doesn't have 2FA, in which case Myki will automatically log me in if my vault is unlocked, which it is. So we will autofill the username and password and hide the contents. Of course, the reason why the login fails is because those are fake credentials. I just want to show you the mechanism. And in the case of it where 2FA is enabled, of course, if we don't ask any sort of authentication from a user, we basically are canceling the second factor of authentication. So in my case, if I want to log into this account, Myki will pop up and say that, an action is required. I hit approve, and I can put in my PIN code, at which point Myki will autofill the username, the password, as well as the 2FA, and it will show it to me in a notification on top in case we weren't able to autofill it.
So
all different browsers out there.
Okay, so wait,
Yes.
hang on. So
wait a minute.
wait. No, I have a question on 2FA, right? Because I have 2FA set up, and it's typically I put it in and I get a text, and then I have to enter the code from the text.
Right. So this is what we call TOTP. So now you get a text by SMS.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not recommended.
Okay.
We recommend to use an authenticator app, and usually you can use Google Authenticator, Authy, or Myki. So since Myki has your passwords already, and since we're offline, we don't have to worry about storing your 2FAs in the cloud, because that would be absolutely reckless, in our opinion, to put your password and 2FAs in the cloud. So they're offline with you. They stay with you. They're backed up. They sync across your company, and you can manage them from one single platform. And instead of having that sent to you by SMS and then typing in the code on the browser, you just have Myki autofill it for you.
Okay.
In which case, again, I'll do that again. You click on an account. Myki says, "Hey, this has 2FA, so you need to authenticate. You need to make sure that it's actually you. Type approve, and then put in your PIN code, and that's it. That's how things work."
And again, Karim and Doug, that's resonating with MSPs, because we recently spoke to an MSP, myself and Karim, and he had 6 2FA applications on his mobile device that he had to use across his client base. So he said just the fact that Myki can replace that and bring it down to 1, he said that's time saving for me. My time is precious. I'm a company owner. I'm juggling many, I've got many balls that I'm juggling in the air on a per day basis. So, giving me time back in my day and replacing the 6 2FAs with 1 is, that makes sense to me. So that password and authentication is really important for a lot of MSPs today,
Got it.
So, yeah, I think I've showed you everything at this point.
And I think I've asked a lot of questions.
I'm ready for questions. Yeah, more.
Well, so again, I think I'm from a workflow perspective. I think I understand. As an MSP, I set up a company, then I add users from that company. They get the email, they install the application, whether it's on their mobile device or as an extension in their browser. They set up. What kind of authentication do I set up for that vault that's stored locally on my device or within my browser? Is that like another password I have to remember? I saw you enter a PIN code. How's that?
Right. So that's an interesting part. Again, it all goes back to the fact that we don't store data in the cloud, which means that we have no use for a master password. We actually don't think it's a good idea, the whole master password idea. I mean, because you're counting on a user to create a strong and complex password, but I just want a password manager to manage everything for me. So since we have no use for a master password, we lock our apps on smartphones using biometric authentication. So Face ID if available, otherwise fingerprint sensor. Most smartphones have one today. And on your laptop, as of today, we have a PIN code, so you can unlock your app using a PIN code. And we're implementing support for fingerprint sensors, and that's going to be easier, of course, to implement with MacBooks at first, but then all those different Windows laptops that are coming out with the fingerprint sensors will support those as well.
Okay.
Usually in cloud, to just know the difference in cloud-based password managers, they actually use the master password, and that's part of the encryption. So the stronger your master password, the safer, or the stronger the encryption. With Myki, the PIN code that you use to unlock your app on your desktop or phone doesn't actually matter. It's just a lock. We don't use that to encrypt your data. The encryption is done differently.
Got it.
So regardless of your PIN.
Now I'm clear on that. So basically, if I can unlock my phone, then I can use this.
Exactly. So
cool.
It's a natural second factor of authentication. We just need to make sure who you are, and we can do that through your fingerprint or Face ID, for example.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool.
I don't know if I have any other questions.
All right, Richard, have anything to say?
Yeah.
I know you wanted to go back to your slides.
Well, no, again, that I think one of the big points is that password, making it longer and stronger, and managing those multiple applications. So in my instance, I was only sharing this with someone the other day for the first time in my kind of IT life of nearly 20 years. If somebody actually pins me against a wall somewhere and asks me for my password, the first time I can actually turn around and say, do you know what? I genuinely don't know what they are, because they're all longer, stronger, hidden from me. And that's actually the opportunity for a lot of MSPs to help move folks away from that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 being used in personal and business life. So I think that and MSPs are really good at educating their clients, and not just bringing new technology, but saying it's not and it's not even that it's new technology. It's a different, in Myki's instance, it's a different approach to password management for MSPs to help their clients, which is always a good thing. Make it longer, stronger. From a, if you flip back to me, I can show you our last screen.
But yeah, Richard, I think you touched on something. I guess another question that came up is the auto generation of passwords. So Myki will actually generate passwords for you. Is that how
That's correct?
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say you go to a website and you go through the whole change password process. So usually you get 3 fields. Usually it's like old password, and then they ask you to type a new one, and then to confirm the new one. You've probably seen that hundreds of times.
Oh yeah.
So what we do, Myki first will autofill the old password for you, and then in the new password field, the same owl that I showed you earlier will show up, and it will ask you if you'd like Myki to generate a password for you, and then you can decide how long the password is, and then you just hit enter, and then update your Myki database, and that's it. You're done.
Cool.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then, like Richard said, you don't even know what the password is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't even know.
Again, but that's the opportunity, and that's the opportunity for all of us. And even only today, I spoke to an MSP, and he was like, "I've changed my password 3 times for this site in the last month, and I still can't remember it." He said, "I'm trying to manage," and he was like, "I've got 1,500 passwords across the company that I have stored in a personal way and all this kind of stuff." He said, I need to move away from that. And so I think not only do Myki, we help MSPs in a couple of different ways. I think the benefits, obviously, the first one, create new revenue streams. Most MSPs are self-employed. They're a business, they make money. The fact that password management it's a part of the stack that they don't own. By offering it as a proactive service, they should bill for it. There's a revenue opportunity from it. So I think that's important. The operational side of it, from an MSP, we hear horror stories all the time. Myself and Karim we were at an event in the UK not so long ago, MSP focused cybersecurity event. And one of the guys that we were speaking to was sharing that in the prior month, 42% of his service desk tickets were password resets. He said, "I got to get out in front of that." He said, "It's costing me money. It's it's costing me engineers time. I gotta become better. I gotta operate more efficiently." So I think that's one of the upsides that are one of the benefits that we bring. And then just standing out from the crowd, for a lot of MSPs, it is a crowded space, depending on the city, town, even just the block that you're sitting on. You've got others competing against you. So, offering password management as a service, it's new. It's an area that hasn't been spoken to a lot of end users, especially in the MSP side of it for a while. You talk it, here where I'm based in Europe, we've got a lot more. I won't say a lot more, but we got compliance from GDPR to in the UK, we got Cyber Essentials. Obviously, in the US, you got HIPAA for healthcare. So, passwords not being stored offsite or being stored in the cloud becomes a challenge. So the fact that you can actually help your clients in that compliance world potentially as well, Myki or no password manager out there is going to make folks compliant, but we certainly help with the steps around HIPAA, PCI. They always talk about passwords, make them longer, stronger, and if you can, implement a password manager. So the opportunity is there for MSPs to stand out, to be different.
Yeah, and Richard, just real quick on the create new revenue streams. I know when Karim went through the demo, he was doing it as managing, as kind of like a managed customer, right? Where it's a service that you provide, like password as a service, for lack of a better term.
No, absolutely, you're dead right. That's it.
And so that's a service that you can sell. But also as an MSP, if their customer maybe doesn't want you to manage that just because of whatever's in their mind, right? You can also, if I remember correctly, an MSP can resell it into the customer. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have that option with Myki as well to resell it into the customer. But then as well, also just look internally. A lot of MSPs, we talk about end users storing passwords on sticky notes or in Excel spreadsheets, and what have you. A lot of MSPs sit in that boat as well, because they've started as a one-man band, or all of a sudden they take on a client, and a couple of months later they're up to 15 employees, but still working off of sticky pads, or one person has access to everything. So just internally, Myki is a really good way of just helping MSPs manage their client, the passwords that they store on behalf of clients in a more secure and private manner. So that's kind of MSP 101. Here's Myki. It sits in your stack. It's going to help you become more secure. So even when you're out prospecting, talking to a new client, and they say, how do you operate your business? Well, okay, so from a password management, here's how we go about it. So that's that aids, helps MSPs on a daily basis. But again, the resale opportunity is absolutely there, but most MSPs today sit in the MRR, or monthly recurring revenue, is the kind of operating, and they're moving away from the kind of break fix, the resell, to let's provide this as a service, because providing it as a service means they have not so much, better control, but better tie-in with the end user, but also helping that end user, and they're getting to use the technical capabilities on a daily basis. So I think the upside, that password management as a service, absolutely, that's the way that most MSPs that we talk to today, that's where they're looking to add this. So
yeah, like I said, it's all about the recurring revenue, and then you have a way to do that with the password manager. I think it is pretty unique. So. Right.
And that is unique. If you look at the space today, most of the other password managers that are there, there's no resale opportunity, or if it's resale, you're paying yearly in advance. That doesn't sit with a lot of MSPs. The fact that they can't see all the clients from one portal doesn't sit with MSPs. So being able to bill monthly, it's a really good opportunity. So I think that's one a uniqueness that we bring as well.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's always the next question, right? So, what do the pricing models look like?
So it's based on a per user per month basis, and then we've got different bands. So basically, a lot of MSPs that we talk to, they're up to they're managing anywhere from 500 to 5,000 users, and we have the same. So up to 500 users, you pay X amount per user per month. But again, we're conscious of the MSP space. They need to make margin, so we believe we have a good margin call. If you look at our site, you'll see not different pricing, but you'll see an advertised price of $3.99 for Teams. And that's where a lot of MSPs start and move backwards from there, because the more users they on board, the cheaper it becomes. So.
Got it. Makes sense.
Hopefully, that's the goal.
Of course. And then, so for MSPs that want to get set up, what's the process like to get set up?
Do you know what? I knew you were coming. You were going to ask me that question. So that brings me nicely onto my next slide. Just reach out. There's my email address is there for anybody to see. If you want to reach out to me, we're happy to set any MSP that's here, that's listening or registered. We're happy to give them a trial for anything up to 30 days. So just reach out, and we'll help with the whole onboarding, get guys up and running, show them the kind of moving parts, and they can take it from there then.
Yeah. So, and I just, like I said, looking at your website, you kind of go in depth a little bit more with some good explanations of how things are stored and why you do it that way and those types of things. So, I thought there was some good explanation, the security reasons behind doing it this way versus that way. So, some good stuff
Absolutely. There. If folks visit our website, and if they just go into the FAQ the frequently asked questions section, you'll see there's a one for based on the app. There's one based on Myki for Teams, and then which is what most MSPs would look to potentially resell, and then Myki for MSP. So everything from where data is stored, why it's offline, how secure it is, and then even from an MSP, backups. We create a copy, a local copy of backups on the device, but we also give the MSPs that option of doing an offsite data backup, to tie in with the disaster recovery and business continuity plans. So we have all those bases covered.
Okay, great. Now, not necessarily MSP focused. This is more personal. Say I wanted, have my mom or my spouse use this. I assume there's kind of like a personal edition as well for Myki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I answer that, Richard?
Yeah, go ahead. Go on.
So if you want to have anybody part of your family members or friends use Myki, Myki is free. The app is available on iOS, on Android, on Windows, Linux, and Mac, and the extensions everything is free basically.
Okay.
So as an end user, you could simply download Myki and start using it. It will always be free. We have a few pro features, what we call for the pro users, but those are they're not core features at all. They're just bells and whistles to keep things maybe a bit better or more prettier. But you can use Myki as a fully fledged password manager and authenticator for free.
Got it. So that's like, I asked you earlier about, a user at a company, once they're set up, they get their personal space. And, you said when that person leaves the company, you delete them from the dashboard, but they still walk away with their personal passwords, managers, and it's free for them. They can continue using it just like they always have. Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Thank you.
It's one of those where, I get used to using something at work and, I want to use it at home. And, you guys have thought of that, eventuality or the fact that, not all passwords are company-wide. I have personal sites that I use and I don't want to share that password with the company and it doesn't. It stores it only for me. And it's portable, it goes with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's everywhere you go. Just because it's offline doesn't necessarily mean that you can't sync it and have it everywhere. But there's another side to Myki, which is not very common in the MSP vendor space, but we have a big community of consumers that just use our app and like it because they want to use a password manager and they have nothing to do with MSPs, and that's part of our mission and it's very important to us. We want to spread better password management hygiene across, as far as we can. So not only MSPs, but of course consumers and companies as well. So which is why we have Myki for consumers as an app, Myki for teams for enterprises, and of course Myki for MSPs for the managed service providers.
Okay. Now, I work for a company that specializes in backup. This is stored on my phone.
Right. So
what happens when I lose my phone?
Right, of course. So here's what happens. When you download Myki, we ask you if, depending on where you want to use it, but most people will not only use it on their phone, they probably use it on their computer, iPad, or whatever other device they have. But let's pretend that you only use Myki, that you only install Myki on your phone, and you only install the browser extension on your computer, which means that the data is only stored on your phone at this point. The extension's job is only to fetch data from your phone, which will act like the database and autofill that in the browser. So in that case, the question is legit. What happens if I lose my phone? Basically, you're telling me that the database is there, so it's lost. And the answer is yes and no. The phone is gone. The database on the phone is gone, yes. But as soon as you buy a new phone and you set it up with Myki again, all you have to do is connect that phone with the previously connected extension that you have on your computer. And Myki will tell you, hey, we have a backup for you. Do you want to restore from it? And you say yes, and that's it. So basically what I'm telling you is that Myki, through the extension, will automatically create backups for you and store them there, always keeping up to date backup of your data and store it. So that's the case. That's actually the worst case scenario, that you only use a phone. Now, in my case, and most of our users' cases, is that I have Myki installed on my phone and my computer at least. So that means that I have 2 copies of my databases because we have to replicate, to duplicate the databases on every device. That's just how it works technically. So if I lose my phone, all I have to do is buy a new one, put Myki on it, and link it to my computer, right? The same thing, if I lose my computer, all I have to do is buy a new one and link it to my phone. So that's on a personal level. Now, if you want to go to the MSP, side of things, the MSPs, the MSP admins will hold the master copy of the database. So they hold the database of all of their clients.
Mm-hmm.
That means that they take care of managing their backups. So clients don't have to worry about their backups. It's the MSPs that will take care of that. And that is, of course, part of why a client would pay an MSP to manage their passwords. So the whole management of backup is on the MSP side, of course, because the responsibility lies on them. And of course, that is created by Myki. The app will automatically create an up-to-date backup of your data, and you can take those Myki backup files and store them anywhere you like. You can even store them and sync them on an on-prem server if you like.
Cool. Yeah, that, you know, again, I'm kind of partial to backup, so I just wanted to make sure there was a way. And you talk about and again, just because I know how people ask questions, you mentioned phone and PC. Would it be the same for phone and tablet? If all I have is a phone and a tablet?
We have. Yeah, absolutely. Basically, phone and any other, basically device A and device B. So two devices, anything. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Also worth noting, Doug, that we don't charge by device because, again, we know that most people will have 1, 2, 3, 4 devices, so it's on a per user basis, so, which helps the MSP as well when they're onboarding clients and they're not charging per device. So
definitely. I mean, like you said, you talked about the benefits for MSPs, you know, to be able to offer essentially password as a service. Unfortunately, platform PAS is already taken by platform, but you know,
PWAS.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
You know, but you know, it's something interesting and a new possibility for MSPs to be able to offer their customers.
And that's exactly that. It's that last piece of that IT stack, I think, where a lot of MSPs just haven't been involved, and it goes back to 1, 2, 3 being that weakness, that data breach vector within a lot of SME clients. So for MSPs to provide that as part of a service, become proactive about it, it's going to create even just on that efficiency for an MSP, it's going to create a better security wall, if you wish, around that end user site farm. So it reduces their security breach potential, so cool. a lot of upside to this for MSPs, to get involved.
Yep. And none of it's stored on the cloud. So I mean, the cloud is I love the cloud, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to passwords,
don't get us wrong, we love the cloud as well. It's just not we just don't consider it to be safe for sensitive information.
It goes back to I had an MSP in the US speaking to him the other day, and he was saying that he said, look, it is something that has concerned me that, have I got too much data in the cloud? So the fact that Myki is offline and away from the cloud, he said, I like that a lot. He said that's starting to resonate with me more and more, that security and privacy. So again, taking that message to the MSP client base, it's a good opportunity. It's good practice. It's good hygiene, as Karim said earlier. It's about time.
And I'm going to assume, because you have this, you essentially sync the database between mobile and computer and devices, that your relay, it's only sending encrypted data. It's not sending plain text data. I mean, that's just common sense. It's always good to say
that. So basically, to give you an idea, we of course data is encrypted locally using AES-256, and everything is end-to-end encrypted during transit. So our server is the dumbest part of the chain. So a server knows nothing. It knows absolutely nothing. It holds no data. It has no clue what's passing through. It just says, okay, you go here and you go there. That's pretty much all there is.
Cool. Well, great. I don't know if I have any more questions. I think we've covered quite a bit. A lot of great information on this. Especially for MSPs. Anything else before we leave?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah, it's thanks for the opportunity, Doug. It's been good to
thank you so much.
And, Cloudberry is something that I hear about a lot with MSPs at the moment. So being given the opportunity to speak to the audience, we appreciate it. And as I said, anybody, my information is there. So anybody that wants to reach out, they can reach out at any time.
Will do. All right. Well, thank you very much. And we'll be back within a couple of weeks here for our next webinar here on MSP Voice as part of our webinar series. Richard and Karim, thank you very much for showing us Myki and explaining the benefits for MSPs.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Doug.
Doug.
All right, have a great day.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.